All right, shalom, shalom. Much love, light, and abundance to each and everyone who's gonna see this video, and to the ones that's not gonna see this video. Hey, welcome. I want to say just welcome back to the channel. Um, um, I'm not Yazakar bin Israel or Yazakar bin Adonai, but also the channel name is Kima Nazir, right? Um, and here, like I say, we focus on a lot of eternal truths when we're talking about scriptures or any book really, because I'll be going into it, trying to get into these studies so I can bring them out passionately as I can do sometimes. But far as the teachings goes, we're going to be doing a lot of like eternal work when it comes to the Bible versus outwardly stuff, because a lot of people teach you that a lot of things or worshiping things outside of self, and that's not really conducive of what certain scriptures talk about. But like I say, I can see that all over the place. I can see eternal understanding for self out in the realm of other things, even other books. You know, I can see, or what we would call the esoteric or the metaphysical meanings of certain scriptures. So what we all have to realize is that there is 4 levels of interpretation when it comes to the scriptures. A lot of people don't know that. Some people ain't going to tell you that, teach you that. They just want to teach you what they think God is versus you understanding what God is, or the God within you is. Okay. So, but going forth in for today's teaching is for, since we're right now, we're in the Passover season. So I'm going to go into some of the Passover understanding of the self, of going in with in depthness of self, or just things that's going to happen, that's happening to you, and you're going to bring yourself out of Egypt or out of this bondage state that you think you're in. It could be in relationships, it could be at a job, it can be home things, home issues, family issues, mental issues, all of these things. But it's all designed for you to come out of yourself, or come bring yourself to the highest awareness of self, so you can bring yourself out or be saved by the Christ, or the Christ consciousness, or the Christ understanding, or the God mind, what they would say. Yeah, I'm a little different when it comes to certain things, or different understandings. And this is, like I say, one of them as we go through the Passover. And like I say, since we're in the Passover season right now, why not? So what I want to focus on is this is, everybody know what the Passover is, or the Pesach is, right? Hopefully everybody knows, but some may not know. But that's when, what it would say in the scriptures, that God brought the children of Israel out of Egypt. And before they was coming out of Egypt, they had a Passover, or this Passover, which means to really just to skip or to leap over, okay, or to come out of, right? So, but where I want to focus at and start at is the plagues, because everybody think that the plagues don't not all had this bad connotation on the Egyptians. But no, they were a sign for all Israel, or the people, or the eternal you, or the internal things that's going on in you, where you find yourself in a bondage state of being. Okay, to anything you find yourself into a bondage state of being. These are the things you can help yourself come out of that state of awareness and understanding. Okay, so what we're going to do first, we're going to go into the plagues first. So we're going to start there first, then we'll go into the teachings of the Passover and what that means to us. Okay, so the first plague, or one of the plagues, was the blood that turned the Nile red, right? The blood flowing through the rivers of Egypt, right? And in that process, it was, we know that that was the life force that kept things going in Egypt at the time. It was their source of money and their food from Egypt. Okay, and turning it blood means your eternal security. That security, that internal security, it fails, right? Because the Nile was the security blanket. That's what kept Egypt going, because they was around that Nile, that water could do all things. You know, water does all things for things. It is wisdom, is knowledge, is these things. And the closer to these times when you're closer to water, those were the life. That was the life of the whole city, was around that water, right? So you when these eternal securities fail, it means you realize that money, status, and other people cannot nourish your soul anymore, right? And the things that you used to rely on for happiness starts to feel very bloody, right? Or let me move over. Or stressful, right? So when it comes down to it, you gotta remind yourself, when you're in these bondage states, or when you're in Egypt, you gotta remember, and you gotta think to yourself that, and you're trying to come out of that, yo, these people or these things, they can't nourish your soul. Yo, nothing nourishes the soul but the source. It's money. That money is, it's a thing. It's just here for you to spend it. That's all it is. It's just energy. Actually, it's energy just like your soul. So it can't nourish your soul. Okay, it's the same essence of any other energy, any other thing that tries to nourish it. You can't rely on these things to nourish you anymore. Especially when you're trying to come out of a situation. Yo, money can't bring you out of a situation that you might be going through. But some people say, well, you know, if I can't pay my light bill, the money is going to be a certain thing. But maybe you need to change your mind, focus on it, and vibrate at the level that money that you need. Vibrate at that level, and you'll receive it. But if you continue to lower your standards and say, I can't vibrate at that level, or I can't be there, because you're trying to rely on the money. No, rely on the self to get yourself to these certain spaces and certain identities and certain understandings, right? Okay, so so the next one we can go into is the frogs, right? We know a lot of things happen. A lot of the frogs into Egypt in one of the plagues, right? Which really comes down, if you really think about it, when you're in a situation, you overthink. When you're in bondage to something, you overthink sometimes, and that's the whole thing of the frogs, because they're noisy, right? You know, the frogs they are noisy. They hop around and they never shut up. Trust me. I've been in the house and I can hear frogs out here all night sometimes. It'd be like, bro, you know, this year it hasn't happened. So that's a good thing. But last year, the last 2 years, oh, these frogs been crazy back here. But this year it did happen. So all praises to the Most High for that one, right? So the lesson here is the mental chatter. You can't continue to let the mental chatter continue to in your mind. You got to slow up. You got to calm yourself down. You got to go into your meditation mode, and you got to be focused. You got to stop the chatter. But even in meditation, the chatter continues. But what you do is you allow it to come and you allow it to go. You allow it to come and you allow it to go. Don't sit there and focus on the mental chatter. When you try to change, your brain starts the croaking. with 1,000 reasons why you shouldn't leave or do this or do that. These plagues is noisy to your own and to your own anxieties. And when you in your anxious, well, actually your own anxious thoughts. These plagues, they get up there, the chatter comes in, it tells you, you know what? No, I can't, I can't do that. I can't move like that. No, if I leave this job, how I'm gonna pay my bills? Right? Those type of things. Well, if I leave this relationship, what am I gonna do? Those things. Yeah, that's that mental chatter. That's what the frogs represent. Okay. When we're getting into the next plague, which were the lice and the gnats, right? Which would basically be a lot of irritation, small irritation, because you know the gnats, lice only you ever ran into a bunch of gnats? you like that, right? They all over the place, and they are very much irritation to you, right? And you can't catch them, right? You know, but they all over the place. They're making you itch all over the place. And when it comes down to the lice, what it's telling you is it's these little small distractions that when you're going through certain things and you trying to come up out, is a distraction over here, is a distraction over there. Somebody said that to keep your mind focused on not coming out of that bondage state or that bondage state of mind or whatever keeping you captive, right? These little things come in and they're little tiny distractions, you know, checking your phone, throw you right on off, right? Hey, it will throw you right off. Next thing you know, you strolling for 2 hours. Yeah, that type of thing, right? Then the gossiping, right? The worrying about the small things that don't even matter to you, right? The ego, the ego trying to annoy you out of your spiritual practice, right? So, because you got to go into these spiritual practices. I'm telling you, when you're trying to come out of a situation, you have to almost go into certain meditation modes, prayer, affirmations, whatever it is. But it's going to come a time when you're trying to get in these situations and it's going to be like, your ego is going to be like, no, not today. No, I don't feel like it today. You know, let me go get me something to eat. By the time you get something to eat, it's like almost too late, right? So getting in these spiritual practices, prayer, meditation, affirmations, whatever it may be, sitting in the woods by yourself, hugging a tree, whatever it is, those are your spiritual practices. Getting yourself connected to source and to the source within you. Getting to that, or that Christ mind, or that Christ consciousness, or that Christ understanding. That's where you got to get to. But like I say, sometimes the gnats come, right? The small distractions, they will distract you at all times. So you got to watch it. You got to stay focused in what you're doing. Okay. So the next one was the wild animals, right? And when they brought forth the wild animals that came through out of Egypt, it just really represents the chaos of emotions. This is when the emotions start, but don't let it stop you from coming up out. The emotionals, they got to be there. They got to come out. All right. And it's primal, uncontrollable beasts running through the streets or running through your mind or running out and just coming out, that emotional state. And that's why they call them beasts, because the emotional state can be very heavy at times, especially when you're at a certain point in your relationships or whatever the situation may be. And if you get to that animalistic state, you could just blow a lid. You could blow a fuse. You know what I'm saying? You could just blow all out of proportion with that, right? So this is telling you to have emotional instability. Your anger, lust, fear, fear starts to run wild because they know they are losing control, because the ego know he's losing control. So he gonna send everything. He gonna send because he like, hold up, nah, I can't let that spirit self come in. I can't do that. You want to stay in control, but it's you two who really controls the ego. It is you. It is you who controls all these things, right? And so you don't have to, you lose focus. The feeling of beastly and out of balance. You feel out of balance when you do these things. You know what I'm saying? Because I've been to them, trust me, I've been in them states. You know, I'm a Cancer. So yeah, or what they would call a Cancer. I was born in the Cancer section of these years of these things. And me being a Cancer, you know, I can blow a lid. I can blow a lid quick. And it's not profitable for nobody, not even for me, because I'm not living within self or my true self. I'm just letting the ego take hold of that, right? So the next thing was the pestilence, right? And pestilence just means the death of old habits. Sometimes you got to let some of them habits that you bring forth go. You got to let them go. Just let them go. Old habits are sometimes hard to break, but you have to let them go, okay? You know, you can't let the pestilence continue to thrive on you and continue to, you know, you always at that state of well, I gotta do this, I gotta do that, I gotta go work hard. Like you don't have to go work hard. Stop trying to be the workhorse. You know, stop trying to be the workhorse. Unless you're really still focused in your spiritual walk and you know what you're doing and you plan it and you got to stay in that work zone, just stay in the work zone. But when you're dealing with something, when you're trying to come out of something or trying to come out that bondage, yo, stop being that workhorse. You know what I'm saying? The old ways you used to get things done, grinding, forcing, and manipulating, stops working. It just stops working. You know, you can do anything and you can't come out of that situation. Your old energy dies so you can find a new source of power. You got to find that new source of power. That new source of power, you got it. You already have it. Nobody told you that. You are the power. You got the power. You. Just like he told Moses, yo, what you asking me for? I gave you the power. Right? Yo, Moses didn't even, I got the power. He didn't even really realize it until God had to remind him, yo, I gave you the power. You already got it. Why are you asking me? Right? So that was the next one. You know, stop being in that super grind mode or trying to force yourself out of the situation. You can't force yourself out of a situation because sometimes force meets other forces on the same energy. Some people bring that same energy right back to you. And next thing you know, you further deeper into bondage. Right? So the next one was the boils, right? Pain coming out, right? Boils. Because I don't know if anybody had a boil, but I know that they're painful. You know, even just to touch sometimes it can be excruciating. You know, just to glance upon it, you know. A painful sore that erupts from the inside. And most of the time when people have boils, they're coming from where? The inside of you. They're coming out. That stuff is coming up out of you, right? All the suppression and the trauma and the gross stuff you hid inside starts to surface. It's uncontrollable, but the poison has to leave the body. Yo, this stuff got to come up out of you. That old you and that old self, these poisonous things that's inside your body, you got to come out. It has to come out of you when you're in certain states of being, when you're in a bondage state. Though, because when you're in a bondage state, that's what happens, because you understand that you're in a bondage state and you don't want to be there. So it causes dis-ease or a disease in the body. So the body has to start realizing, yo, this don't supposed to be here, because the body heals itself. A lot of people don't really understand. The body will heal itself if you doing things properly and eating properly, breathing properly. You can heal yourself. You can heal thyself. Right? Nobody want to really tell you that, but it's okay, and I understand why, right? But you can heal thyself, right? Okay, so the next one was the hellfire, right? Now, this is where, especially if you're in a religious state or any kind of thing that keeps you in bondage, right? It's a crashing of the belief. Now you understand that this system is no longer for you. That situation is no longer for you. That relationship is no longer for you. The religious things that you're in is no longer for you, and you have to come out, and you got to come out of it, because it doesn't work for you anymore. It's not for you. Whatever the situation may be, a money situation, you already know it's not for me. When you don't have it, it's not for you, right? So the ice and the fire falling at the same time, a total contradiction. These things is a contradiction. With fire and hell and ice coming, it's a contradiction. It's what we would call cognitive dissonance. Once you get there, once you understand that you have brought forth cognitive dissonance in certain situations, you'll think about it like, hey, yeah, I was using that at that time, right? Your whole old view is being smashed. Especially sometimes when it comes to religion, because I've had it happen to me, because that's where I'm at today. Because a lot of things that I understood, it just wasn't working for me anymore. That was like, as I think about it now, I was like, what? I was doing it, but yeah. But sometimes those are the processes. Sometimes you have to go through. You got to go through certain things, to enhance yourself, to get yourself to a more spiritual you versus a religious you, right? Because the religious part of it will bring in a lot more dogma. And not saying some people in spirituality don't use dogma, but that dogma, once you're out of a certain thing, that dogma goes away, and you start to realize that the higher understandings or the higher state of beings is for you. It's for you. But some people has to be in the religious places, and I get that. Some they have to be there because that's who they chose to be in this dispensation of time, or if they want to call it time. I don't necessarily subscribe to it, but yes, time. Right. So the cold part of the hell and fire or what have you, is the indifference, and the hot is the anger, are colliding. Your old reality is literally falling apart. So it's like you see the contradiction in what's going on in any bondage state. You see the contradiction. You start to see it really clearly, and it points itself right to you. It gives you they give you the whole picture, and you looking at it like, yeah, that don't work with that don't work with that don't work with that don't work with that. It's a whole contradiction, and now you're like, yo, that don't even work anymore for me. Yeah, no, it's not gonna work for you anymore, because you're not supposed to be there anyway, right? Not at all. So the next plague was the locusts, right? So, if you go in, you'll see that, they destroyed the land of Egypt. They wiped up all the crops and all of that, right? So, but what it really represents is, when those locusts come in, it eats up the past. You don't worry about the past anymore, because the past is eating up. The locust is making the past go away. Shouldn't be thinking about the past, no way. It's all about the present moment. Nothing in the past. Present moment. Not even the future, because in the future is the present when you get there, right? but it's always present moment. Stay in the present. When you stay in the present, that means you stand focused within self and in your highest total being of effort to anything that you're doing. When you're at work, stay in that motion, stay in that zone, stay in the present. Don't venture back to last week at work when you had a hard day, because it's gonna re-trigger some things. Now you're thinking about it. Not because you're not in the present moment anymore. So the locust, when the locusts come in, it eats up the past, right? Remember, they ate up everything, any green leafy left behind, anything. The locusts remove any scraps of the old life, and they try to hang on, that everybody tries to hang on to. It's cleaning or giving you a clean state moment, right? Everything green in the old ego land is gone, right? You have to, anything of that ego in that past, let that locust eat it up. Let it go. Let it go. When them thoughts of old things happening to you and these things happen, let it go. Let it go. Let's get into the present, because the present moment is where you want to be at. You want to stay focused in the present in this moment at this time. You want to be present. That's why it's called a present. It's a gift. It's a gift, right? Stay in the moment. Stay in the moment, right? So the next one was the darkness, the void. Yes, this is when you're in meditation. If anybody been in meditation, you know it's dark in there, but you'll start seeing light when they come. But still focus on the void of that thing, because the void, inside the void, is the answers, right? It is so thick you can darn near feel that, because they can feel it in Egypt. If you go read the story, it was so thick you couldn't see nothing. That's how thick it was. But this is where you need to be at, because what we would call, in most spiritual understanding, we call it like the dark night of the soul. This is where you got to deal with some stuff, right? You got to go in and you got to clean house. You got to go in there and deal with certain things that you have done that kept you in these situations. And now it's time you got to grow from these things. Remembering to leave that old life, but you can see the new one. When you're there, when you start going through that dark night of the soul, you can see the light at the end of the tunnel. You can see it. But you got to go through that darkness first. You got to go through it, and you got to leave it alone. You got to let it go. You have to let it go. You're sitting in the dark, right? Focus. Remember, when you're in that dark place, focus on going inward, right? It's going inward, right? Because that's where the totality of the spirit is, and your true self is. The answer is right there, right? You at this point, you're blind. You can't see anything, but you can feel it. You know it's there. You can only touch it. Right. That's why I say you can touch it in the darkness. You can touch those things. You are being taught to see your inner eye instead of your physical eyes. That's when you get into that, or what some people will call it, the third eye, or what have you. That's eye is open because your eyes is closed. You can't see anything. These physical ones, these eyes that see physically, is closed. Now it's time to start seeing the places where you want to go when you come up out of Egypt. But you got to go through the dark. You got to go through that dark side first, because the dark side, sometimes things come up and you got to deal with it. Right? You got to deal with the anger, the frustration, the fear. You got to deal with it right then and there, so you can move forward up out of Egypt, or coming out of any situation or anything that's keeping you in bondage. You have to, okay? So the next one was the death of the firstborn. Right? So the death of the firstborn, we know that the death of the firstborn was mostly back to the death of the firstborn right? And that means the firstborn is what we would call pride, or the heir to something, and the future of the ego, because that's what the ego does. It's basically the firstborn. So if you understand how, you are created, they say, you're created from the stomach, then your brain starts to come out. So everything starts here within what they will call the sacral or the solar plex chakra, but that's where the ego resides at. It resides there. So it's basically the firstborn, because that is the first part that, when you start to come into a little fetus thing, that's where everything kind of starts from. Okay, so the first one is, it's basically your identity, right? To be truly free, the old you, the one born into this world's supposedly limitations, has to, I don't want to say die, but I would say to diminish the ego, diminish those things. Okay, so the spiritual you can take forth or bring you forth. Let the ego drop back, and let the ego guide you. Right? Because you can't just kill the ego. You don't want to kill the ego, because the ego is here to protect you. It has a purpose, but it's not. The ego is not here to take precedence. Excuse me, in your life. No, your spirit self is supposed to do that, because the spirit knows all things. The ego think he knows. Right? The spirit knows all things. It knows exactly where you need to be and want to be. Okay? This is the final releasing of the ego at this point. That's what it's talking about when it's talking about the death of the firstborn. Okay? The death of the firstborn, this is where you have to really release or set the ego back into its proper place. At the proper place of being of protecting you, and not overtaking of the spiritual self. Okay, so this is the thing. Don't be afraid when your life feels like it's a plague, right? It's just the universe evicting the ego, so the real soul can take over the house. The plagues aren't happening to you. They are happening for you. Okay? Would you like, right? These things are happening for you. Nothing in life is happening to you. It's always happening for you. It's happening for your highest good, for your highest understanding. And when we get to these levels of thinking and understanding, when we're in a certain place of bondage, you'll understand, well, no, I got to go through it. Let me see. Okay, you can go through it if you want to, but you don't have to. You can change it. You can say, no, I'm not about to go through that. And do something totally different and go elsewhere. Right? So, but those are the plagues before the Passover can start, right? But they're all eternal aspects of yourself. So to get yourself to a certain place of understanding, okay? I had to move locations right quick because I was outside, but looked like we're about to have a little storm. So I just bought it in the house. So so everything is all good. So we finished up with the plagues, and like I say, these plagues, they're not happening to you, they're happening for you, so you can get the understanding, or anything in this realm really happens for you. It doesn't happen to you. Nothing's against you here. Nothing in this world is against you. Everything is for you. Now, when things happen to you, that's because you have made it to yourself that this is what I need to go through as a spirit to get you to a certain understanding, but you don't have to go through it. You always have the opportunity to say, no, I don't want to go through that, and put yourself on a whole different understanding, or what they will call, some people may call, a whole new timeline. Okay. So now we're going to get into the portion of the Passover, right? Or the Pesach, right? And like I say, at the beginning, I said it means to really to skip over or move over or come out of something, right? Which is what I would say, it's a escape from limitation, right? You escaping from a limitation or from bondage to come up out of a bondage situation, or a something that got you in the double straights, or something that got you focused on this and not on other certain things, right? So the Passover, it wasn't it was at a time for Israel to come out, but it's also a great understanding of self today, to get things done today. It is a diagram to how the human soul breaks free from the ego, or Pharaoh, or the Pharaoh mind, right? And move from bondage, which would, or Egypt, or limitation, and go into the promised land, which is spiritual freedom, right? So that's what we're trying to do when we're talking about coming out of a thing or coming out of a situation. You're always letting the ego go. Number one, let Pharaoh go. We always talk about telling Pharaoh to let us go. How about you let Pharaoh go, right? You have to let the ego go. Let him go to the backside. Let him go to the end, and not in the forward of you running your life, right? Stop letting Pharaoh run your life. Let him go back. He's only here to protect you, right? So bringing and getting yourself out of Egypt, or bringing yourself out of bondage, or what we would call limitations, right? So you can get yourself to the promised land, or spiritual freedom, or what they will call the kingdom of heaven, or the heaven, the God, or the heaven of God, right? These things, which is called spiritual freedom, right? All right. So you got to ask yourself, when you're in these situations, where are you? Are these situations, is it a bondage situation? Is there a Pharaoh controlling you? Right? Or is Pharaoh always leading to charge in every situation? Right? Ask yourself where you're at and what's holding you bondage today. If anything's holding you bondage. Right? So you can come up out of Egypt and letting Pharaoh go. So you can get into the space of awareness of the kingdom, or the promised land, right? Because you want to be in the promised land. You want to have this spiritual freedom. Because right now, in a limitation state, if you're thinking that you're in a limitation state, you're not in the promise. You're not in the spiritual form that you should be in, or the promised land, or which you should be in, right? So Egypt was, or is, it still is, it's a country that's in North Africa, right? And we know, and if you really do study on it, you know that Egypt was one of the great civilizations to probably be on this planet at a time. I would say behind Atlantis and Malaria, the land of Mu, or Lemuria, and even Mesopotamia. Mesopotamia is pretty good too, for certain things. But sometimes when you're in a place and you may feel that you're trapped in this place, right? You'll write the story as this place was holding me captive, right? So the Israelites or the Hebrews, they made this story up so it can later affect you to help you come out of bondage. But nobody really kind of like teaches these type of understanding. They just going to teach you what happened, bring forth, and they're going to give you their synopsis of the story or their understanding of the story. But most people don't go in the depths of this story to help you understand in a situation that may happen today that you may be trapped in Egypt or a state of limitation so you can come out. And this is what the story of the Passover is all about, right? The Hebrew word for Egypt is Mizraim in the Hebrew, the biblical Hebrew tongue, not the ancient but the biblical Hebrew tongue. It comes from the root tazar, meaning narrow or tight or constricted, right? So, like I say, when you're in Egypt, these states of being or states of understanding where you're at and something got you trapped is to constrict you, or it's tight, it's not allowing you to move. It's almost like you're going into a depressive state. So because the word depress, it means to depress, press down. You can't move. This is where most people, when they get to that point, they can't move. It's almost like a depression. But if you can move, you're not being depressed, you're just being constricted, but you can move. Okay. Egypt is the place in your life where you feel stuck, squeezed, or limited. It is the state of sense consciousness, believing that only that you can see, touch, buy is real. If you are living in fear or lack, you are in Egypt. Fear and lack. You don't lack anything. There's everything here is for your benefit. You don't lack anything, and you should not fear anything. Fear, false illusion appearing real. You don't. It's a false illusion. There's no such thing as fear. People try to put fear in you to make you do a certain thing. That's another teaching. But they will teach you fear. You got to fear that. Or they won't tell you to fear it, but they'll give you a fearful situation to try to get you to do something. Or they'll bring you in with a little love talk, and then they spring, well, if you don't do this, this is what's going to happen to you. That's fear. No, nothing's going to happen to you. Remember what I just told you. Everything that is not happening to you, it's happening for you, right? So there's no need to be fear or in lack, because once you're in those state of places, that's when you're being in Egypt, okay? But that's Egypt. That is the thing. And so Pharaoh, right? Pharaoh, like we say, it equals the ego. It's equal the ego self, right? The stubborn will, the one who won't let you go. The one who won't let the spirit self go. It's the one holding you back. He's the one holding you back. Your own ego is holding you back. Or some people would say, that's God and Satan thing or whatever, And I would say, to in an esoteric or metaphysical understanding, I would say, yes, the ego would be Satan, and your higher self or your Christ self would be God or what have you. You know, like on the cartoons when you had the devil on one corner and the angel on the other corner, they whispering in your ear. Yeah, that that there. Y'all seen that commercial? Y'all seen that cartoon? Yes, indeed. So he was the ego or the stubborn will. He's the king of Egypt. He's the king. He's the king of fear and lack. He's the king that keeps you in limitations. That guy, the Pharaoh, right? So the Pharaoh represents the dominant ego. He is the part of you that loves control, refuses to change, and asks, who is the Lord that I should obey him? Who is this highest thinking or the higher mind or the conscious or the Christ conscious that I should obey him? Who is he? Who is that guy? I know nothing. I don't know him. Who is he? Right? The ego be on some stuff, man. I'm telling you. He be getting it in. He is the one who says, who is the Lord that I should obey him? Right? The ego is something else. Who is this? Who is the higher self? Who is that? Right? Who is God that I should obey him? Right? Because you done let the ego run rapid. He don't know he got somebody over him, or that can settle him down. Right? He don't understand that. So the ego will never let you go willingly. It's gonna fight. You cannot negotiate with your bad habits. You can't do that. Or your limiting belief. You can't negotiate with that. They must be ruled over by the highest power. And that highest power is you, or your highest understanding of thinking. You can't negotiate with the ego or your bad habits, because the bad habits going to continue to do what it's going to do. You ain't going to say, well, maybe you do this and you do that and I do that. No, it ain't going to work that way, because the ego won't all control. That's what it does. That's what it wants to do. All right. So when we're looking at Moses, the deliverer, or the one who draws you out, right? Because Moses means the one who's drawing out, right? Or the one who draws you out, or the deliverer, the evolutional impulse, that internal force that pulses and that want to bring you out. That's Moses. That's that thinking when it says, yo, I got to get up out of here. That's Moses. What should I tell my people? It's time to move. What should I say? Who should I say sent me? Yeah, the deliverer. He's the one that's going to bring you up out. Right? The prophet who Moses is the prophet who led the people up out of Egypt. We know that, right? Moses represents the higher intellect or spiritual will within you. He is the thought that makes up one day and says, I am meant for more than this. Yeah, that. You had that thought in your mind. Yo, I was meant for more than this. Yep. What is it going to be? You either going to allow the ego to keep you where you at, or you going to let your highest self or your higher thought patterns to bring you back into your spiritual awareness, right? Or from these emotional states, right? Wisdom pulled from the subconscious. Because the subconscious mind, because once the conscious mind gets something, it goes to the subconscious mind. Whatever you're thinking will automatically, the subconscious mind will take it. No matter if it's good or bad, or would you want to say good or bad, or negative thoughts. And you got to understand what you don't, some of us may not understand is that probably 70% of the thoughts that we think are negative. And you got to ask yourself why. Why is that? Because there's a lot of trauma that we have been through and been up and down in, or even trauma that's trapped within your DNA. Yeah, something your grandmother or grandfather went through years ago still travels within your DNA. And guess what? It's in your DNA. So sometimes you be thinking of some negative stuff. You don't even know where it came from. What is that? What you talking about? Where did that come from? Yeah, that's because it's in your DNA. And like I say, 70% of the time we think is negative. So what we do is you try to think of more higher understandings of thought. Bring those things out abundantly, abundance, health and wealth and abundance. You know what I'm saying? So you bring these things up, then the conscious mind's going to take it and it's going to work for you. It's going to start bringing things into. That's what it does. And that's how the system works. That's how the law works. When you knock, the door shall be open. If you ask, it shall be given. These concepts is within the book, but nobody teaches you these things. They may teach you a little bit of it, but they're not giving you the depths of it. They're not telling you that you got the power. But God already told Moses he got the power. And Moses is that intelligent one that's within you. Yo, you got the power. Yeah, you got the power, man. You got it. Nobody else. You got the power over yourself like everybody else has the power over themselves. Right? The power in the tongue, the power in the tongue is life and death is in the power of the tongue, right? What do you mean? Yeah, exactly. Because you have the power to change anything within your reality. Anything that you're going through, you have the power because it's been given to you already. Haven't I not said that ye are gods? Right, that. Because he already gave you the power for you to bring yourself out of these situations that you may feel trapped in, that you don't even want to be in. Right? So when we're looking at that part of Moses, so what we'll do, we'll go into the next part, which is really the Passover, which is the ritual part of the Passover, which is the technology of protection. It's the protection of the mind, the protection of yourself, the protection of whatever you're going through is to protect you from it. Don't let the ego confuse you, right? To bring forth things that he think he's going to protect you in. He protects you in certain situations, and those are certain situations. When you're in a certain situation that you're keeping you in bondage, the ego gonna say, "Oh, it's not like you're in trouble. You're not in trouble. You okay? Stay here." But you know that's not a good situation for you, right? So the spirit has to come in. So these rituals have to come in, like because at Passover at the first of the month we had to get a lamb. Right? You had to get the lamb in Passover. You had to get your lamb. You had to hold it for your days. And you cut it up. If you had enough, you offered it to your neighbor or what have you, right? So the lamb really represents the animal nature, right? Within yourself, within you, within yourself, right? To leave Egypt, right? Or a bondage situation, you must sacrifice the lamb, that animal nature. You have to get away from your animal nature. Okay, so because in the ancient world, really, like in Egypt, the ram or the lamb was an Egyptian god, right? Associated with the god Amun, right? By killing that lamb, right? By killing the lamb, The Israelites were slaying the gods of their oppressor. And when you can slay the God of your oppressor, the animal nature of a certain being or entity, when you can slay that, you got, I've been saying it the whole time, you got the power. It's you. You have all of it. It's all you. So within that lesson of the lamb, you must sacrifice your ideas. The sheep nature is the part of you that follows the herd. You stay quiet and accept slavery, right? You just accept it, but you just follow along. It's okay. It's not gonna hurt me. But deep inside, you're not feeling well. You are hurting, right? You are. Your spirit is hurting you so much that you can't sleep. Some of us can't eat, right? When you get into that state of being, you have to get yourself up out, and you have to slay that animal nature that you have, right? So so you had to sacrifice it, and you had to eat it, right? So eating it means that you integrate the energy. The energy you takes the power back from that thing that was holding you bondage, or that you was using for worship, right? Like money, right? Approval of others, safety. You already safe. You already protected. You just don't realize it. You trying to do something for somebody, they don't even care if you do it or not, but you trying to get that to them. Come on now. We got to get up out of that. That's so when you eating the lamb, when you're in those situations, means getting your power back. Let's get your power back by sacrificing the animal self. That's how you get your power back. Getting your power back is the main focus when we're talking about sacrificing the lamb, right? Okay, so the next one was to put the blood on the doorposts, right? Which is, I would say, is conscious protection, because you have to consciously control or protect the thinking of the mind, because a lot of people will shoot negative things at you, not on top of what you have put on yourself, right? So you have to protect yourself, right, at all times. So you have to put the blood on the blood on the doorpost from the death angel, right? So painting the blood on the lintels of the door, on the doorpost, right? So that the angel of death can pass over, or these negative thoughts or these negative ideas can pass over. You go in one ear, and go out the other. Keep on, let it keep going, coming in and letting it go. Do not sit there and dwell on it, right? So when we're talking about the doorpost, you got the house, right? You have the house, which is your conscious mind, right? That's the house. That's your conscious mind. And within there is the subconscious mind, right? So the door, the entry point of your senses is what? Your eyes, your ears, and sometimes your mouth, because sometimes we breathe on how we live. If you change your breathing, you'll change the way you live. So a lot of us at this present time, because I do a lot of breath work stuff, so at this present time, we breathe too fast. So when we're breathing fast, you're stimulating the sympathetic nervous system, which is enhanced, brings you to a fight or a flight mode. You're either going to be fighting or you're going to be fleeing, right? And these things keep you in a higher state. right? Keep you in a high state of uh, um of um of just doing things. It keeps your heart rate up. It keeps these things up. You always on the run, always on the go. But no, if you change your breath, slow your breath up a little bit, slow it back down to about 6 seconds per, 6 seconds in and then 6 seconds out. You'll start changing it, which was then starts to hit the the parasympathetic nervous system, right? Which will calm you, which will get you to relax a little bit more. Then you can think better. See, in those heightened states, sometimes you can't think. You just going on adrenaline, and that's all you doing. You just getting it like that. But when you're in the parasympathetic nervous system, when you're calm, you can think, you can see things a little bit better. You can see what they're doing to you in Egypt. You can see somebody trying to take advantage of you. But when you're in those heightened states, you can't, because you're going so fast. You're missing it, right? So that's the entry point to which I say is the ears and your eyes. That's your doorposts. So when we're talking about the blood is what? Right, life force, right, and vitality, right. You must seal your mind when the world is going crazy, or when you're in that state of being, or in that state of bondage, right, or in that state of lack, or that state of fear, right. That's what they will call the plague of death. You place a sign on your awareness that says, only when you put that blood on the doorpost, you're saying to you or to anyone else or to your awareness, only life enters here. Only higher thoughts enter here. Only good things for me that comes through here. That's it. You reject negative thoughts, which is the destroyer or the angel of death, from entering into the subconscious mind. So the subconscious mind, like I said, when things come in and you think about it in the conscious mind, if you got feelings behind these things, the subconscious mind is going to take it and it's going to do what it does. It's going to make things happen for you, work for you. It's going to put you in these situations. It's going to bring you to whatever you're even thinking about. And remember what I said, 70% of the time we're thinking negative. Sometimes we got to change our thought pattern. So we're listening to that. And even coming down to certain words that we say out our mouths sometimes but that would be on a different type of study or teachings, right? So because I know language is language, wherever you at with the language, man. You can use certain words, you ain't got to use certain words, right? So with the blood, but that's what the blood does. It seals and gives you that protection from negative thoughts coming in when you're trying to get out of these spaces, right? So now we come into the unleavened bread, right? Right? The mitzvah, the matzah. Yeah, that matzah. Yeah, that flat bread. Yeah, with no leaven in it, which is humility and haste, right? So when you're in these states of being, in these things, you got to be humility. You got to have humility, and you got to be in haste when you coming up out of these things. You can't sit there, because it's gonna suck you back in. Once you sit there, you think. Once it gives you that, you right back in Egypt. You right back in bondage again. So the leaven, or that yeast, represents the puffing up of the ego, the pride, anger, inflation. But the unleavened bread is flat, simple, and made in haste. So we don't, because once you get into that puffiness or that pride mode of the ego, it's going to keep you right there. It's going to keep you right in that situation that you're trying to get up out of because of your ego, right? The lesson here is when you decide to change your life to come out of this space or come out of that situation, do not hesitate. Come out, come out. Do not wait for the conditions to rise. That's why we don't put the leaven in the bread. Because if you sit there too long, guess what? That condition is gonna rise. So you gotta make that bread quick. Because we about to get up out of here, right? You move with authority, move quickly, right? With humility. Take only the bare essentials with you. The bare essentials of the truth with you. Just take the bare essentials of truth with you. That's all you need. You don't need to take the bed with you if you don't have a place to go. If you're going to the hotel, you don't need the bed because the bed is at the hotel, right? So certain things you can only take, and you got to take it with humility, and you take it in haste. That means you got to get up out of here, right? That is what you don't want to sit yourself in and let those things puff up and rise up within the situation. That's why you got to go and keep it moving. Make that bread in haste, move with haste, and take only what's truth for you or what you can handle with you. If you gotta leave, let's say if you're in a situation and the housing situation ain't good for you, or that person that you're with ain't good for you, sometimes you just gotta leave everything. It's okay. You gotta leave everything, and it's okay. It's okay to start over. It's not okay to stay in that situation because it's not what your spirit is here to do. It's not to do that. You're not here for that. You're here for great things. But a lot of times we like to settle for stuff when you ain't got to. You don't have to. Move on. Don't be scared. Go ahead and go. And the person that you may be dealing with in those situations, they may not understand it because they're not where you're going to be at. Right? But if a person that's in that understanding, he would understand. I remember years ago, they used to tell me, if you really love somebody, you'll let them go. Ooh, yeah. If you really love somebody, you'll let them go. That's love. That's allowance. Yeah, that. Non-judgment, allowance, letting them go. That's right. So, the next would be, right, the crossing, right? Because now we're coming to, once we're coming out of Egypt, we did the leavened bread. Once we coming out, we done moved, we on our move, going to make our sacrifice to the source, right? But guess what there? Yeah, the Red Sea right there. That quantum leap, something you got to get over, another situation you got to get over. That's what it's gonna do. You got to get over the situation. Certain things gonna get in the way. Oh, the car might not start when you're trying to leave. Right? Might not have enough money to leave. Right? Those things. That's that Red Sea. Well, I ain't got no clothes for an interview. That's that Red Sea. If you're trying to get another job or something, that's that Red Sea right there, right? So the Red Sea is a subconscious barrier, right? Because now it's like, I don't know. Then we get into that point. Well, I don't know, right? So the Israelites really leaving Egypt, they hit that sea, right? This represents the emotional wheel. Edom, the emotional wheel, right? You decide to quiet your addiction to leave Egypt. But suddenly, you are hit with a wave of emotions and fear, memory and doubt. That's the Red Sea. That fear, the memories and the doubts that come forth when you hit the Red Sea or when you're trying to really get up out of that situation. These are the things that come up in your life, in your dwelling point, right? Because you get scared. Yo, where I'm gonna get this money? Where I'm gonna get some money from? If I need a suit, I need some clothes for an interview, right? If I leave here, where I'm gonna go, right? Like I said, the car might break down. These things, keep you in fear. It goes into the mind, so it makes you want to stop and just give right on up. But sometimes you got to go jump. You got to make that leap of faith, and you got to jump in that water, right? You got to jump in the Red Sea of these emotions, right? You got to jump in there so you can make that miracle happen. Because once you understand, well, you know what your purpose is and where you're going to go, that door going to be open. Remember when I said, if you knock, that door shall open for you. So sometimes you got to jump in that water and make that miracle pop open and let it be that, right? This is the terror of the threshold, right? The ego, Pharaoh's army, is chasing you, and now the sea is in front of you, right? So now it got to come to the point of you got to part these seas. You got to part the sea. You got to part the Red Sea. You got to be like Moses. Y'all don't know if y'all remember the 10 Commandments, the movie, the old school. Right. But God, he was asking him what he should do to the Creator. God, yo, stand still and watch the salvation of the Lord. Stand still and watch the salvation of the Lord. Sometimes you can stand still and watch it, but sometimes it's better for you to move on it. Move on that thing. Jump in the water and test it. Let it go. You ain't gonna drown because the miracle gonna happen. You gonna find, oh, dang, I had an extra $300 in my account. Oh, I can go get me some clothes for a job interview. Oh, I can get this hotel for the night if you need it, right? Oh, I can get my car fixed. I can get here and I can get there. Sometimes you got to press that button. You got to make that leap, what they will call a leap of faith. Jump off the ledge. A lot of people don't want to jump off that ledge because, they don't know. But sometimes you have to know. What they will call, you have to have faith, right? You got to go on in there. You got to make this thing happen for you. Right? So the water, let's say, because in a story, I think it's in the midrash or what have you, or certain midrash, when you looking at scriptures, sometimes they got midrash, or some people may say certain things, right? But this is one. It says the waters did not part before they stepped in, right? According to the midrash legend, a man named Nashon had to walk in until the water reached his nostrils. Then it split. Right? So the lesson here is, action precedes the miracle. Sometimes you gotta put in a little work. You gotta go into that action mode. You must talk. You must walk into the fear until it feels like you might drown. Only then does the universal law break open the path to dry land. Right? Because as we know, stand still. He told Moses, stand still. Watch the salvation of the Lord. But sometimes some people got to jump on in there and make that miracle spark. Boop, boop, make it spark. But also, the Most High told Moses, yo, I gave you the power. I gave you the power. You have the power. That's the whole thing of sacrificing the lamb, so you can get your power back. So you can get out of certain situations that you may be in. Sometimes you just got to learn from those things. You just got to take it in perspective and know that it's going to work for you, right? So the next point would be my takeaways from the Passover things. But I think I went over a lot. So hopefully those things can get you to certain points where you're in a state of bondage and you may be fearing certain things. But remember, slay the lamb, get your power back, right? Get your leavened bread, make it with haste, with humility. Come on up out of there. Move on it. When you get to that emotional state, that barrier, right? That barrier, that Red Sea, sometimes you got to jump on in to make that miracle work. Knock on the door. It'll open. You got to go in through these things, right? Identify your Mitzrayim or your Egypt, right? Or your situation that you may be going through that you need to come out, right? Stop negotiating with Pharaoh. You can't negotiate. We already went over there, right? You can't negotiate with Pharaoh. You can't negotiate with your ego, with doubt. It's not going to listen. You're going to keep on going and do what it does, right? Stop rationalizing your limitations, right? Put the paint on the doorposts. Guard your mind extensively against death thoughts or negativity thoughts or negative thoughts that's going to hinder you from coming out of that situation. Eat your matzah or your unleavened bread, right? Be willing to start small, humble, and fast. Step into that water. Do the thing that scares you the most to trigger the miracle. Okay? So when you getting into these states of beings, is a process, is a thing right here for you to get you up out of it. See, a lot of people don't teach this type of understanding or way, right? They may teach it in a different way, but they don't teach it off the Passover like this. They just give you, what happened in the book, and they give their thought on it. But it's not directly ministered unto you directly. It's how I teach it is taught to you in your situation and in what's keeping you in bondage. You are the one have to come up out of here. It is your situation that you have created. It's your reality, but you can always change your reality because you got the power. You are the one. You got the power. Let me look at you. You are the one. You got the power. That's why you slay the lamb, to get your power back. That's why you do all these other things. So I would tell anybody, if they're going through anything, I probably would tell them, remember the Passover. Or keep the Passover. Make sure you're keeping the Passover in these situations, because it's going to show you how to get up out of it if you understand it that way. You have to understand it that way to get up out of here. There's many ways to teach it, and many teachers teach it, but they're not teaching it as a symbol of the Passover aspects. Now they might teach you, well, you need to come up out of that situation, such and such, but they don't give you the reference codes. The reference codes right here is the Passover. Coming, bringing yourself up out of it, bringing yourself out of bondage, bringing yourself to certain situations that you're going to have to deal with. Certain things you're going to have to deal with. You just got to move on it to bring yourself out of it. You already know you're destined for something great. All of us are destined for something great. But that's what we do. We don't know how to get out of things, but I'm going to give you the key. Keep the Passover. Keep the Passover. So with that being said, y'all, my much love, light, and abundance to y'all. Hopefully y'all got something out of this teaching. There's going to be a little bit more to come, because I'm, I coming when you're in a state of being where I'm at, you want people to get it like I get it. I want for my brothers and sisters, I want them to get this just like I get it. Right? Love thy neighbor as thou love thyself. Whatever I understand, I'm gonna try to give it to you, and I'm gonna try to give it to you for free. It's not about money to me. It ain't got nothing to do with that. Wisdom, knowledge is free. Knowledge is free because you already got it. You already know the knowledge. You just got to remember. That's why I say remember the Passover. Remember it. Zakar. Y'all Zakar like me. Zakar, remember. Remember. I'm here to help you remember. But I'm also here to love you. So much love, light, abundance to you again. Um, thank you. Thank y'all for coming back to the videos. But like I say, more to come. So with that being said, shalom, and have a great day. Much love.